Hey Ron, this is Ron here. I just wanted to create a quick video to demonstrate how to use the tool that Anne Thorne has created. So she's basically put some code together and created a tool that enables us to export a trade from OptionNet Explorer and then be able to essentially place that data for that trade into a comma separated value file, a CSV file, and then be able to send that through to a friend or whatever that's actually running OptionNet Explorer as well, and then he or she can then import that trade into their version and then essentially see the entire trade. So just very quickly, how to do that. So you can see here that I've got a trade. This is a standard M3 style trade. Just to kind of show the transaction log, you can see that there are multiple adjustments here, right? Another one here, another one there, so on and so on, right? So there's about 5 adjustments roughly in that particular trade. So obviously having to do all this stuff manually is a bit of a pain. So ideally we want to export this trade and easily then import it somewhere else. So to do that, the first thing we have to do is basically go to the trade that we want to export. Then over here, you can see that it says 387. That's actually the trade ID, and we're going to need that, right? So if I hover over here, you can see that number there on the left that says #387. And then we've got the trade name, but the name isn't actually important. What we basically need is the trade ID. In this case is 387. So to export that particular trade out, we're going to click on reports, and this is going to show you all your trades. Now, this is my style at least, right? And which you can basically get through this drop down and say account and expiration. But we actually have to make a bit of a change so that we can filter down to just the trade ID that we actually want. Because you'll notice that we've got a whole bunch of trades here. If I click export, then it's going to export everything that's on my screen. And that's not what I need. I need to export just a single trade, right? So as we know, it's trade 387. So this is the trade ID. So what you can do, if you like, is you can click, so you can see that when I hover here, there's like a little filter icon there, right? So I'm going to click on that filter icon and then pull down to custom. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type equals 387, which is the trade ID we want. And you can see that written down there, right? So if I click on OK, you can see here that it's basically filtered down through to that trade ID. This actually here says 387, right? So I've only got a single trade there, which is exactly what we want. So now if we click on export, we can export this out through to a particular folder. Here it's just my documents. And for now, I'm just going to leave the default name, which is basically the current date and one summary report. So I'm just going to save that out. And now if you are going to be sending a trade through to a friend, if that friend is in a different time zone, you will need to let them know which time zone you are in, right? If you want to quickly confirm that, you can click on the support button and then on system info. And then over here, it's basically going to tell you, in my case, I'm in Pacific Daylight Time, which is -7 over here for the offset, all right? And you'll see where that's required in a second. So you've got that particular CSV file. Basically, at this point, you would just email that file through to your friend. Your friend would then receive it. So now let's pretend that we are on the receiving end. So I would have gone to my email. I would have saved that CSV file through to a local folder somewhere. And now I want to import that trade in, right? So just to kind of simulate that, I'm going to click on settings and I'm going to create a new account. So I'm going to click on new account. Let's call this test import. All right, you can set whatever your commissions are and so forth there, that's fine. And I'll click on save. And then I'm going to flip to that account, right? So I'm going to click on that drop down and then just go to that test import. And you can see here that it's empty, right? Because it's basically a new account. So this is the account that I want to import to. So we've just switched to it. So now I'm going to click on the import button. Actually, sorry, before we actually do that, we have to convert the file. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the tool that Anne Thorne has written, and we basically have to grab that file and get it converted, right? So I'm going to select, I'm going to go scroll down to where that file was. All right, and then I'm going to click on this step 2 button. All right, there we go. So that's done. And you can see that it's the same file name. It just has this thing in front of it now called output. All right. So now that that's been converted, now we can import that new file in through to OptionNet Explorer. And remember, we're now on the receiving end, right? So again, I'm going to click on import, click next. Now this was the time zone issue that we talked about before, right? So if in this case, I'm trying to copy from one account to another or something, I can just leave it on local. But if you're sending this to a friend, then you would have to have told the friend what time zone you're in so they can choose the correct offset here. Okay, so we validate that we're putting this into the test import account, and then we just have to browse to the file, but remember the converted file, right? So I don't know if you noticed, but I accidentally kind of clicked on this thing twice, but any one of these would be fine. So it's not the original, it's the one that says output, which is the converted format. Click on import and say next. And then you can see here that it's now picking up all of the trades, right? So what we have to do is basically highlight all of the rows. So the first row here is already highlighted. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. I'm holding down the shift key on the keyboard, clicking on the last row. And when I do that, you can see that everything here is highlighted. I then click on link. And now we simply give this a name. It can be absolutely anything. I'm going to call this M3-1. Hit OK, hit next, and give that a couple of seconds to import the trade in. All right, and again, this is grabbing the converted content and sucking it in as a new trade. All right, that's done. So you can see here, and remember we are now simulating that we're on the receiving end, right? And you can see here the trade is fully there, right? So if I then go to the trade log, you can see it says imported from, it's not from Thinkorswim, but it's been tricked into thinking it was, and you can see the entire trade there, right? And it will work perfectly. So in other words, if I right click here and say next adjustment, it takes me right to that adjustment, right click, next adjustment, so on and so on. All right, so everything works as you would expect there. And then go back to previous adjustment, whatever. All right, and again, everything's been taken care of thanks to Anne Thorne. So again, big thanks to her for coding this up and making this available to the community. All right, so hopefully this video has made it clear in terms of how to specify a specific trade to export that to a file, convert that file, and then re-import it back in on the other side. All right, thanks guys. Talk to you later.